Okay, my name is Naomi Flowers. I'm 15 years old, and I'm currently a sophomore at Winter Springs High School.
What are your extracurriculars?
So, besides sports, I'm part of, I'm part of Dems, which is like the Seminole Democrats for Seminole County. I'm part of the Young Dems of Winter Springs High School. I'm part of the Environmental Action Club, and I'm vice president of it. And I just founded a Black Student Association with Coach Clark, who's my coach, as the sponsor, which will start next year.
And what sports do you play?
So I play cross country and track.
Okay. So the first question that I've kind of really asked everybody is, how do you feel about your school environment? Or how do you feel about your high school specifically?
So my high school specifically, I feel like it is the right choice for me from the choices that we have, just because like it is near where I live, and the sports programs, obviously, for the specific sports I'm doing, Coach Clark is like the best coach that I think is available in this county, in Central Florida, the state even. And then also just the IB program. Only 2 schools have the IB program in our county, and this school I felt like was, I don't know, like the teachers in the IB program just are really understanding and always make sure that the students are able to reach their goals. And I really like that. But obviously there are a lot of things that could be fixed, but I think with what we have, it is a great school.
Okay, and would you say that you've had a normal high school experience?
No, actually. And I think that's just because, I mean, it sounds silly, but really, like, winning a state championship is something absolutely crazy. And, like, I didn't win as an individual, but I feel like it's even more, like, emotional winning it as a team, because you're sharing it with so many people, and it's just such a beautiful experience that obviously not everybody gets to experience. And so I think even though that was, like, one day, like, one race that made us win the state championship, it was, like, a whole season, a whole year of training that led up to that, which is a huge chunk of my high school experience. So, yeah.
Okay, and what would you say sort of pushes you to, do all this? Because you mentioned so many clubs, you do track and cross country, and you're in IB, which is a super rigorous program. So what sort of pushes you to do all of this?
I think what pushes me is my end goal, which is to go to an Ivy League. And I know not everything turns out the way that it's supposed to turn out. So I don't know if I'm going to go to an Ivy League, but that's really my goal, to go to Columbia University in New York City. And just doing all this assures me that, like, I'm getting closer and closer. Obviously I need, like, good SAT and good essays too, and, like, good grades. But I'm just trying to tie it all together, and that helps it. And then also just on a deeper scale, like, it's because I like being involved in my community, and I feel like I've gotten so many opportunities from people who, like me, are involved in their community and try to help others. So that's what I try to do back. Yeah.
And what is your, so you talk about helping a lot of people in your community and just being sort of active in your community. Do you think that that's the sort of career you want to go into, sort of working for the public?
Yeah, so I actually already started in a way. I do community service with Class Athlete in their Lake Mary branch, and I actually, like, coach little kids, like, from 3 to 6 years old, and I coach them. It's not really coaching, though, because they're so small. You just kind of, like, watch them and make sure they don't trample each other. But it's like I feel like I'm giving back to their families and to the kids by just being there for them and, like, being guidance and just helping them have fun and, like, taking a load off their parents' shoulders by just, like, taking care of their kids. And so that is, like, something I want to do, just help people in my community and be involved in my community. So I want to study political science and be involved in politics. And, like, most people don't like politicians, which is understandable, but I want to be the difference in that. So, yeah.
And so you mentioned going to Columbia and wanting to major in political science. Is that where you sort of see yourself going? Is that your people have 5-year plans, 10-year plans, that's where you sort of see yourself?
Right, yeah. Ideally, I'd be going to Columbia University also with a scholarship too. I wouldn't want to go in there with, like, a bunch of loans. So ideally with, like, a substantial scholarship too. or grants. And yeah, at Columbia University for at least 4 years, and then study political science, maybe a minor in like sustainable development, because like the way our environment is today, I feel like what's most important is building sustainable cities. Sorry.
So I know that a lot of when we met in middle school and even through now, a lot of the conversations that we had, a lot of the things that we talked about were mainly about so politics, but most importantly, issues concerned with, Black people, because we both are half Black. And you posted something I don't remember if it was a couple days ago or a couple weeks ago, that I saw reposted on someone else's story. And it was talking about the disproportionate rates of Black people that are being affected by coronavirus. And do you think that do you think that fighting for, or being an activist in sort of that way, is something you see yourself doing along with the whole public works thing?
Yes, of course. I feel like I'm so lucky to be in a position where I can be an activist, because not a lot of people can, especially disenfranchised people and the people that we're supposed to fight for. Like people of color who live in like poor communities, like they can't really be those activists without like feeling danger, whether it's to themselves or their families. So I feel like it definitely is my place, and people have done it for me, and for you as well, like a woman of color, like women color, like all of that, like people have done it in the past for us, and definitely like needs to continue. And it's not even like a question for me. And yeah, especially with Corona, people who live in like the slums of cities, which is usually people of color, because systematically that's just where they've been placed and where they're stuck. They are more likely to die from Corona, either because they don't get access to healthcare or because
I think that that's such a good point. So a lot of the talks that I've been having with people are just mainly about like the things that they are sort of into, and I think that political activism is definitely a thing that I would say you're kind of known for. That's like when I think of Naomi, what I think about is someone who's really not afraid to stand up for what they believe in, and someone who you definitely are the first person to call out wrongs and injustice when you see it. And I think that's such an admirable trait, and I think especially so young, because
thank you.
And I think it's amazing. I really like where I am in my political activism and just looking into things. I don't think I would be here if it wasn't for having met you in middle school and you being so already really educated on these, such broad concepts. And would you say that the way that you are brought up has sort of like given you leeway into this, sort of taught you that you have to speak up?
100%. Well, I feel like my parents kind of raised me in the way that it was like, you decide for yourself if you feel like you have to speak up. But seeing them being people who speak up and share their opinions in educated manners and polite manners has really influenced me for the best. But they've always really been like, you make your own decisions. Like, you want to be a Republican, you can be a Republican. Like, make your own decisions as long as they're educated, just all like different types of stuff. So I think it's really, they haven't raised me and like been like, go out and protest, go out and share your voice. But they've raised me to be like, go do that if you want, or don't do it if you want,
Okay, and so I want to go into a little bit more of school for a moment. So how many APs are you taking, and what is your whole stance on APs?
So I'm currently taking 6 APs. I'm taking 4 in school, and then I'm taking 2 online. And I think I definitely learn more in my AP classes, and it's definitely rigorous, higher learning. And even if it didn't give me like the college credit or anything, I still think I would take them just because I do like a challenge and I do want to actually learn. But I think the exam culture is kind of toxic surrounding it. Not everybody can sit down at the end of the year and take an exam and expect to pass it, or just expect to feel like safe and comfortable in that environment. So I think it could be improved on. And yeah, but I I definitely just take APs for the challenge and because I like the way it boosts my GPA for college applications. So, yeah.
And what is so for the most part, everyone that I've talked to kind of has like a subject or a particular thing that they really love. So for my friend Corrigan, it's science. He loves science. For another friend that I talked to, it was history. What would you say is your subject?
Anything that isn't STEM. It's weird because in elementary school, like, my classes were definitely STEM-based, but for some reason I just strayed away from that. And I think it's just because I knew deep down that, like, I wanted to go into something more social, something more, like, surrounding human beings. So that's why I was, like, history and English are my strong points. History and English, for sure. I've never really struggled, and I think it's because I enjoy it. And even if it were a struggle, I feel like I just, like, mask it as, like, just a challenge and, like, something fun. So, yeah.
And what are you doing during quarantine? Like, besides schoolwork, are there any books that you've been reading? Any movies that you particularly love? So, the book you're reading?
Oh, yeah. So, I'm reading How to Think Politically. I can't really pronounce authors' names, or I guess I can pronounce just a collection of statesmen and just important figures in history, and it kind of like just gives like a little bit of information about them, about those people. So it goes from like Confucius to Machiavelli, John Locke, Mary Wollstonecraft, to Karl Marx, like just a bunch of different people, and it just gives like their different political mind states. And I've also been reading I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. And besides books, I've been watching a lot of movies. Yeah.
I know that we've talked a lot about political science and stuff like that, but what about political science intrigues you? Or why is it the major that you want to go into?
So first, I just eradicated all STEM majors. I was like, it just definitely would not be the right path for me. I would struggle. Like, I know I could do it, but I just wouldn't enjoy it, so there wouldn't be a point. So I just took all those away. So then I was just left to, like, history, art, English majors, stuff like that. And I realized that the one that could get me the most mobilized in my community is a political science major. It would just lead to more doors being open for me the way that I want them to be open, and just I want to enter the political world and be a politician. So that would be the best choice, and also would leave, like, it's broad enough to leave other options, like maybe going to law school and stuff like that. So yeah.
And what would you say is like your dream career? Like, do you have a specific like career that just calls to you?
I don't know. I think I've realized that it's kind of hard to be like, I'm going to be this specific thing, because life doesn't work out like that. So now my brain just kind of blocks me off from being like, I'm going to specifically like be president or like be governor, because it doesn't always work like that. It's whatever opportunity comes to you, and something could be better or worse. Like, you never know. So I think I'm just focusing on getting that degree, then like getting internships while in college, maybe out of college too, and then just going into my career and seeing what happens.
Okay, and what would you say, like, so going back to high school again, what would you say joining all these clubs and joining sports has sort of taught you about high school?
Okay, so my coach, Coach Clark, is the most amazing person ever. He's so intrusive and goes into your private life way too much, but he does it for the best. And I think one example is just like in high school, obviously there are a bunch of like different influences you can have, whether it's good kids, bad kids, or just like every different type of person is there. And I'm a very social person, so I talk to everyone. And my coach just realized that like I was getting used by some people, and just like, whether it was little things, like if somebody asked me for $1 and I don't know them, like I'll give it to them just because I can't say no. Like, it's not possible. So it's just like little to big things. He was like, this can't be happening. You need to learn. Like, so he kind of implemented like a form of discipline and like shaped my mentality through practice and through sports, and especially cross country and track. There's such rigorous sports, and people don't realize it because it's like you just move your two legs, right? But it's like, it's really mental because, like, for example, yesterday I had to run 6 miles, and I was like, God, I really don't want to run this. But then I was like, I know I can run it, so why would I not run it? Like, I've run something faster but longer before. Like, why can't I do it? So it's really all mental, and it's really helped, like, my mindset to be more disciplined, to, like, know that I can do stuff and to never give up, because it just translates the same. It translates the same to running.
What would you say so besides learning discipline and stuff like that, what would you say sort of these clubs and joining these things does for social life and even communication?
Right. I think it actually helps me prepare for the real world. Once I'm out of high school, it's going to be the real world. And it really helps me prepare because being involved in all these things doesn't just limit me to one type of group. I see a lot of people just always hanging around the same type of people, which is good because they find comfort in them. And obviously they're friends and, like, they're happy with each other. But then I feel like once they get out into the real world, they realize not everybody's going to be like their friends, and they can't really pick and choose who they're surrounded with. So it really helps just being around different types of people and getting perspective. I feel like perspective is one of the most important things somebody can have, because, like, most people grow up in the same spot, you know, like, we're always in the same area, same type of people. Like, we need perspective so we can understand the world and be the best version of ourselves and just be able to like adapt to other people and adapt to a changing world by having that perspective on why things are the way they are, why people are the way they are. It helps you in the long run.
And high school is one of the, like, best places to sort of learn that. I think high school is such a diverse place, and whether it be, you know, diverse, you know, having mix of different races and ethnicities, or most importantly, diversity of thought, because there's so many different people thinking in 1,000,002 different ways. What would you say high school sort of has taught you about communication and even diversity of thought?
I think it's taught me that the most consequential and dangerous weapon, in a way, is thoughts, because those just spread so quickly. In a way, like, they can spread quicker than disease, than anything. Like, ideas, once they're out there, like, they're out there and they're going to be there forever. And it's really just taught me the power of words, the power of your own thoughts, whether you keep them in your head or not. They're just so powerful, and they influence so many things that you do and say. And it's just, I think it's really just taught me that it's really important not only to make sure that you're just saying things that are okay out loud, but also in your own head, just make sure that you're okay by thinking the right things, you know?
Yeah. And I think that, like, mental health, so going into thinking the right things, you know, mindset, I think mental health is such an important topic in high school especially, and I think that learning about it, and not only learning about it, but talking about it is also such a big thing. So what would you say, or do you think that mental health is a big issue in high school, or do you think that it's talked about enough?
So first, it's definitely a big issue in high school, just because we're going through puberty, and I feel like people, like, tend to forget that puberty isn't just physical, like, for boys growing a beard and stuff like that, or, like, just for girls getting, like, rounder. Like, it's not just physical. It's definitely a lot of it mentally, as you're adapting to your own body and just adapting to your own self and learning about yourself. So it definitely is a big issue. And I feel like it's just a big issue anywhere in your life, because mental health just doesn't automatically mean, like, something negative. It's just you always have to think about your mental health, whether it's positive or negative. I don't think it's talked about enough. Like, we have PE, but we don't have, like, mental health anything, you know? So I don't think it's talked about enough.
And do you think that creates sort of a culture of, because I know that when older people talk about, like, our generation, they talk about our generations being super sensitive and, you know, social media obsessed and stuff like that. Do you think that we sort of go into those outlets to sort of look for an opening to talk about issues that matter to us?
Yeah, I definitely think social media helps people connect and just feel like they're not alone. But at the same time, I feel like it isolates people even more. And because people aren't confronting their thoughts and their problems in real life, they're confronting it through that outlet, which can be good at some points because you don't feel alone. But then sometimes it really just isolates you even more. So I think there's definitely a lot of toxic energy around social media. But I think it's good to have an outlet. It's just, I feel like we need to find healthier outlets for your own self. And for some people, social media can be that, but I feel like people need to know that there are other outlets that are available, whether it's like a therapist or a friend, or writing in a journal, meditating, practicing mindfulness. There's so many options. And since it's not talked about enough, people don't know.
And what would you say you sort of do to de-stress or to sort of go on a mind break?
I like to run, but run for my own sake, not like the practice that my coach makes me do or like gives us over text now that we're in quarantine. I like to run, or I like to go on walks. And when I go on those walks or run or bike sometimes, it's like I do it without music, even though I love music to death. I have to try not listen to music because I realize when I listen to music, for me personally, that's how I escape my thoughts. Like I push them aside and I just forget about them and I like don't confront them. So I need to like listen to my own self and have my brain go crazy and like get over it. And otherwise I do like to listen to music and get that frustration out by either dancing or just listening to my music and like making myself cry. And I've tried journaling. I feel like it doesn't work for me personally. It used to, but it doesn't work for me personally. I wish it did. And yeah, that's how I do it.
Okay, and on a lighter note, just to throw it out there, what is your star sign or your zodiac sign?
I'm a Scorpio, except I've been doing some research on astrology because, I don't know, the concept is kind of like, I don't know, it's an interesting concept. So I've been doing research on it. And like some research is saying because like the stars have changed or the earth has moved or whatever, like I'm actually a Libra, but on most people's terms, I'm a Scorpio.
And
if that makes sense.
I was talking to Catherine yesterday, and she's a Scorpio too, and I made a joke. I was like, "Oh, you're a serial killer."
Yeah.
What would you describe your style like? How do you, if you had to summarize your style in a couple of words or maybe a sentence even, how would you describe the way that you dress?
So, I don't know. My style is definitely different from school to home, but I still try to show my style as much as I can while, like, not breaking dress code or anything at school or while not making people's heads turn too much. But definitely, I would say I like colors a lot. I like kind of matching a little bit. Like I do like the trend where people put like clashing patterns together, but I kind of like matching. And I would say something like Lucas Sabat and like Steve Lacy, but with the amount of money I have compared to the amount of money they have. And it's not necessarily streetwear, but it's definitely stuff like I don't know, close to streetwear, but not the type of streetwear where it's like Supreme and Nike. It's like streetwear, like I don't know. Yeah.
And it's like I don't know, it's so the way that Catherine sort of described her style yesterday was sort of New York, like sort of streetwear, but a little bit like edgy and stuff like that. And I think it's a weird concept to sort of describe your style as not to just describe your style, because for some people style is something so personal, and it's just something that within you every single day you think about who you want to be that day.
Sorry, my mom says hi.
Hi.
Elle dit bonjour.
So what would you, when people think about you, when people, if you cross their mind, what do you want them to think about?
I think something that I'm working towards is having people think of me as understanding and a listener. I love talking, and I do listen and understand people, but I just want to make sure that they see that too and feel comfortable with talking to me and just being themselves, whether it's like talking or just the way they act or just the way their vibe is. I want people to be very comfortable being themselves. because I'm just open to anything. So I think definitely I want people to see me as somebody who's understanding, a listener, and someone who's like there for people and someone that they feel comfortable with.
And I think that's such a good way for people to think about you, and I think that it's a pretty accurate description of how I think most people think of you.
Thank you.
No, so on the whole, so school quarantine, everything's kind of shut down for quarantine. What would you say has your life really changed that much being in quarantine, or is it kind of similar?
Okay, at the same time, it's kind of similar, but it has changed a lot just because I am such a social person, and I am so used to seeing people all the time. Like, just every single part of my day would be surrounded with people, whether it was my team, my classmates, my friends, neighbors. It was always surrounded with people, and now it's like I only see my family, which is fine too. But yeah, it has changed, but I definitely do like this just because school can get overwhelming. So I do like this and being able to make my own pace, my own schedule, and just having more time to relax, because I just remember like coming home from practice every single day and I felt like I was in a deep sleep, but like awake, because I was just so exhausted. Like not even like physically tired. It's just like my entire existence was exhausted, and now it's like I feel like rejuvenated. So it's definitely something good. And I feel like the change for me is good, but obviously I'd rather this not be happening because people are dying.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And would you say you have a good school sort of life balance, or do you think it's something that you could work on?
I think my balance is good because I've never felt this year like stressed about turning something in on time or like anything like that. So there is that balance. I think the only balance that I really need to work on is like time for myself. I lost a lot of time for myself, and when I would not have school and practice or like meet, I would always try to like catch up on hanging out with friends when I like realized I needed to catch up on like hanging out with myself.
And I think that's such an important thing, and I think that quarantine, for me at least, for the most part, has sort of been rejuvenating in that I have more time to focus on the things that I want to focus on rather than just doing things for the sake of others. And I think that's a common sort of feeling within the people that I've talked to, that it's like as sucky of a situation as it is, they're trying to take it with a bit of joy. So they're trying to be a little bit of they're trying to be positive in it, because we don't know how long we're going to be stuck inside. And so for me at least, I love that this has given me time to do these interviews, and to not only do these interviews, but to edit photos that I've been meaning to get to, or to write and continue stories that I have pushed to the back burner. So I think that definitely having this feeling of sort of centering yourself is very important. And I think that for us, at least as high schoolers, I think it's even more difficult, because I know that a lot of people are thinking about eligibility years and even extracurriculars for college, because we don't know if we're going to be able to have those 2 years of extracurricular activities. And if we have to do them, we're going to have to do those. We're going to have to do clubs online, and sports are, you can't do sports. Right.
Yeah. I think for me, it's like, I trust that things will still go smooth in a way. Like, and it's not even that I trust the system, or I trust the teachers, or I trust colleges. It's that I trust the students to mobilize against them if they don't do what's right for us, considering the circumstances. Like with College Board, all the students were like, hey, like, we need that college credit. And then College Board got moving with all of us, like, pushing for them to give us that college credit and an opportunity to get it. So I think the same thing will hopefully happen for everything else.
What are your sort of photography? What do you love about photography?
Oh my goodness. What I love about photography is just seeing it come together. I do less candid moments. I wish I could, but I don't know. I've shot less candid moments and more like actually manufactured moments. And what I just love is seeing that picture come together, because when you're trying to create that certain vibe and then you see it come together, you're like, oh, yes, I got it. Whether it's just like the lighting coming together, like your like focus and just your settings all coming together, and like the models coming together. So I really like taking pictures of people. I also like, I travel a lot, so I just love taking like the right picture of where I'm traveling. But what I always try to do is take pictures of things that like nobody's looking at. So I'll just like look around, people watch, and be like, okay, they're all looking like at this cathedral or like this ocean, but let me take a picture of everything they're not looking at. And then it just always turns out so beautiful. When I look back, I'm like, this will never be on like the tourist websites, but it's something you need to see.
Yeah.
So I like that.
And do you like traveling?
Yes. I actually, going back to your question about an ideal life, it would be just traveling, whether I have a job of letting me do that or just me doing it. Traveling, there's so many places I want to go, because I literally want to go every single place on earth. Like, yeah. I think there's beauty in literally every single place on earth. But I really want to go to North Africa, West Africa. I want to go to Thailand. I want to go to Northern Europe, so like Finland and places like that. And I want to go to Hawaii. Just so many places. But yeah, I love traveling, and less about seeing the stuff. It's about being immersed in the culture. And I'm so lucky that like my family is the type of travelers where we do immerse ourselves in the culture. Like with my grandma and I travel, we try to go to hostels, because it's like the people who own it kind of take you in, and like you get to eat more traditional dinners and meals with them, and it's usually in like areas of the city that are indigenous to the people and not like touristy. So yeah, that's what I love the most, and gaining that perspective, as that earlier.
You said hostels, and I immediately thought of there's a horror movie called Hostel.
Oh,
I immediately thought of that. I was like, that's just like the first thought in my mind.
They are scary sometimes.
And I think that being scared though is a part of life though, and I think that traveling especially, when I talked to Gavin, who I've known Gavin since 5th grade, Gavin. Yeah, I don't know why, but so in 6th grade I would talk to Gavin about Jackson, and so Gavin still calls Jackson a 5th grader. Because
that's how he sees him.
He literally thinks that Jackson looks like a 5th grader, like even to this day.
Oh my gosh.
But no, so he was telling me that he doesn't want to travel young. He wants to sort of make his money, and then when he's settled, then go traveling. So he wants to travel.
Really?
He wants to travel with his family, so with his wife and maybe kids and stuff like that.
Aww.
Which I thought was a cute sentiment, but I know a lot of people, especially me, I'm like, I want to travel before I have kids, and then decide which places I think are okay for my kids to go to.
Yeah, true. And just also getting those experiences you can only get while young, in a way. And I like hate to say that, because I want to be the type of person that's like always act like you're young, you know, and like you can do any experience no matter how old you are. But it's like some things only feel a certain way while you're young. So I want to experience them while I'm in my 20s and stuff, and see what happens. But I do like that idea though, just being settled down and feeling secure in that, and secure in traveling, and then traveling with your loved ones. But I think I'd love to travel alone.
Yeah, I think that I would love to travel. I would love to see places alone, because I feel like when you go with people, or even when you share something. So if I shared a picture with you of a vacation, there's sort of a response that I'm expecting from you, or that I want you to react. But when you travel alone, you get to decide by yourself where you want to go, and you get to decide how you feel, and it's not based upon, oh, this person hates it, I don't know how I should feel about it, you know?
Right. Yeah. I like that a lot, what you just said. Mm-hmm. Because it's kind of like you have to change yourself, change your reaction and your emotions and like your experience for them.
Yeah. Back to the whole asking Gavin about his wanting to travel thing. So he said that by 26 he wants to be married. Do you think that you want to be married by 26, or do you think that it's something that you want to live a little bit more, or explore life a little bit more before you decide to settle down with someone?
when I was little, I used to like plan out my life all the time. I'm sure you've probably done it too. I feel like you're a planner. Yeah, but I remember thinking like I want to be married kind of as young as possible and have kids as young as possible so I can settle down as quick as possible. And like, but now I feel the complete opposite. I don't want to marry at all. And I'm open to having my opinion change, but I don't want to marry at all. I don't want to have kids, although I love kids to death. Like, that's why I work with kids and stuff like that. But I don't want to have kids. I don't want to get married. And yeah.
And I think that's a totally valid feeling. Aurora, I don't know if you remember her. Aurora, she's completely sworn off of kids.
I see that. The thing is, I love kids though. I definitely want to have like kids in my life. Like if like my friends and family have kids, and I want to see that stuff. But yeah,
you want to be the cool aunt.
Yeah, exactly. I'll do that. I'll spoil them. But it's like, I don't know. Selfishly, I just want to be living my own best life, and like it translates the same to like wanting to travel alone. I want to experience things alone and not have to like have it feed off of other people in a way.
Okay, and do you have any sort of closing, any thoughts or advice for people that are stuck at home and things like that?
I guess what everybody else is saying, make the best out of it, because we're hopefully never going to get this experience again of being stuck at home and not having obligations and responsibilities in a way, you know. So I would just make the best out of what we have right now, because you'll have the rest of your life to make the best out of seeing friends all the time and seeing people all the time and doing what we could do in like what was our normal life. So make the best out of what we have right now, which is taking time for yourself and hopefully like with your family and just making the best out of it. And yeah.
Okay, I just want to say thank you so much for doing this.
Of course.